What's up? This your girl A1, and you are tuning into
The Meetup.
Toxic relationships. Many of us have been in them. Some people know people who have been in them, and there are some people out there who don't even know that they're in a toxic relationship.
Your body you can tell what in your environment is conducive to growth and what's holding you back. It's like we can tell when people are not, when we need to change something around us. This makes itself known.
I mean, yes and no, because sometimes we can tell and not do anything about it, and sometimes we can tell and do something about it. Sometimes we don't even know.
Yeah.
In some cases, people are just so used to putting so much of themselves out that even if the attention they're getting is negative, it's still attention.
Right.
So people are just putting themselves out there, putting themselves out there, putting themselves out there, and that energy's not being reciprocated. Well, then now you're kind of stuck.
Mm-hmm.
Toxicity from around you is leaked into your body because what you are doing is you think you got to keep putting yourself out there in order to get validation.
Yeah.
Even though it's negative energy, it's still energy.
Still validating, yeah.
Right. Yeah, I feel that some people really tend to do that because maybe they don't have a lot of people surrounding them, and they're like, okay, well, this person is here. They might not be that good to me, but it's still someone here, and they confuse that with, like loyalty and someone who's really ride or die for them, but in actuality is someone who is really toxic to you because every time you're talking to them, it's like they're making you doubt yourself and doubt your dreams and your goals.
The one thing comes to mind is when you talk about addicting validation and how some people can be stuck in negativity and not know it. It's kind of like having an abusive parent or something, like a girl who has an abusive father and then she thinks that an asshole is a proper mate, so she puts herself in those situations or like finds those people and thinks that abuse is love, and it's not necessarily for women. It's either way. That negative train validation.
Abusive, you hit it right on the head. As soon as you said about the toxic and stuff like that, the first thing that popped into my mind is domestic violence. That's how domestic violence is perpetuated because it comes from a background of abuse. The only thing you know is abuse. So you think abuse is a normative and healthy way of living when everybody else outside of you that hasn't been in those situations knows it's not. But for that person that's in the abuse, they're trapped in it because their normative is abuse. So for somebody like that, what you have to start doing is you got to start exposing them to healthier means of how a relationship should work, whether it be with their parents or with their loved one or with their sister or their brother or their cousin. You got to show them normative patterns of behavior that are healthy, so then they can start hopefully self-realization, self-actualization that these patterns I have been going through or have been through were not healthy, conducive to my health.
Look, that is not normal. Everybody that has some sort of PTSD can tell this is not normal. They need to be told that.
Right, but then you also got to think about how do you go about reaching that person, because at some point, especially with the ladies or the men in domestic violence situations, they're so deep in this negative energy shell that in order for you to peel back the layers, it becomes even more energy exerting.
Hmm. Also, there becomes a point where helping someone starts to hurt yourself. when, some, when someone would rather fight tooth and nail to keep that comfortable level of validation because it's the only thing they know, and helping them could be sinking yourself into
Yeah.
that same pattern.
Right, right. That's when boundaries need to be set
Yeah.
between X amount of people so the lines don't get blurred.
And it's tough, especially when you're dealing with someone who is in a relationship with that person. Sometimes it's not as hard if it's just like a friend of theirs, but when it's someone that they've been intimate with and everything, it's it's always a lot harder.
Yeah, because now you share a deeper level. Like it's not just, oh hey, let's go out and go to the movies and come home. It's, oh hey, let's go out, go to the movies. We've been together for X amount of time. We share intimate times together, intimate feelings, emotions with each other that we wouldn't have done with just a regular friend, even a best friend. So it's definitely more difficult when somebody's been entrenched in a relationship that's been abusive than it is to be giving advice to somebody that has been friends with somebody that's abusive. And it doesn't even have to come over as abuse. It only it can come over as like them just being manipulative, or them just taking advantage of you or using you for your energy. It doesn't even have to be abuse. It can be energy. It doesn't even have to be physical abuse. It can be energy abuse. It could be emotional. It could be mental abuse.
Mm-hmm.
Could just be holding back from whatever goals you might have.
Right, right, right,
Right. Because sometimes people do that too, where it's like they don't want you to better yourself because maybe something in them feels like, you know, they don't have anything going on. So they don't want you to accomplish anything either.
right. Well, then if you people that come across people like that, you have to look at that person's background, because for that person that's going to hold you down, they're either A, exhibiting jealousy, B, exhibiting abandonment, or C, just oblivious to everything and think that the way they're living is the way they're supposed to be living.
So what would you say is the best way to like get away from that? No matter if it's well, actually, because I would think it would be kind of different for like family members, right? Because you can't really just
Yeah.
cut them off. So how would you handle
Well,
like a family member?
I had to after a number of years. Things that compromised my reputation. So it took a while for me to realize that that wasn't. I know it sounds ridiculous, but it did take a while for me to realize that wasn't healthy. He didn't really have my back, and that was a person, even though that they were close, I had to distance myself from, because you can love people from afar. You just have to realize what your boundary level is, what your orbit needs to be.
Right.
Right.
Blood isn't always thicker than water.
Exactly. And it could be,
That's
it could
true.
be, could clog your arteries. It's just so thick.
Right.
Give you a heart attack.
Right. Sometimes water's thicker than blood. Um, so yeah, that's unfortunate. I've had to after years of growing up and all that stuff, I've definitely had to cut family members off as well that are just out, have their own mental health issues, but not really trying to do anything to take care of those.
Hmm.
That becomes energy draining as well. But also, too, bad habits get passed down. So, you know, I'm pretty sure Yusuf, you may or may not have picked up some bad habits from what your brothers have displayed to
Oh,
you.
of course. That's what, uh, on one hand, it could be the hardest thing to cut off family members. On the other hand, family could be the center of all of your trauma. And it
Yeah,
could be so much
Mm-hmm.
easier than just a stranger or somebody who doesn't have that sort of draw with you.
right.
Um, but it took a while for me to realize that I was picking up bad habits, and it, there was something to why I felt a particular way when I was around one of my family members, or what they brought out of me, or what I thought on some level I had to prove to get
Mm.
their validation.
Mm,
So it's
So
it's just
that's
a. Mhm.
a good point. Like realizing and being honest with yourself to notice changes that you're going through, right?
Mhm.
Especially when you're around these people, how your mood is changing and how, maybe you're not getting things done like you used to get done. And
Yeah.
realizing that about yourself, and then how would you tell someone like how to go about getting away from that so that they can do better and accomplish all their goals that they're trying to get to for the new year?
Man, I think it's by example. People learn mostly from example. Like if I'm telling somebody to get their life together and I don't have my life together, it'd be kind of hard for them to listen to me. Sometimes it takes a rude awakening for them to learn on their own.
agreed. It also depends on their situation, their living situation, how old they are, an X amount. Because if you're a teenager living with your parents and all they do is bring you down, then there's unfortunately really nothing you can do until you move off to college if you decide to go to college.
Yeah, that's true.
Right.
That because there are a lot of teenagers out there that are in situations like that. They can't do nothing about it.
Hmm. That's a point where you realize when where your help is most needed or most ethical. Because there could be an endless well uh, that you're jumping into that would distract you from your own goals trying to help somebody else. So it's like everything you can do in your power, but you don't want to become a martyr and sacrifice yourself for somebody else who would probably repeat the patterns anyway, or
Right,
they're just too far gone or in a situation that they need to find their own wisdom in.
right. Well, that's where the self-realization, the emotional intelligence, and the boundaries come in.
Hmm.
Because if you don't have those three and all you do is just continue to expel your energy, then by the end of the day you have nothing left for yourself.
Yeah. That's how they were saying, free your mind and the rest will follow.
Mm, that girl is insane.
That was in vogue.